As small as it may seem, customizing your mouse is a very useful thing that can help you to work much more efficiently on your computer. Let's take a look at the preferences by going to the Apple menu and choosing System Preferences, then clicking on the Mouse button. Now, depending on which mouse you have, you're going to have different controls than what appears right here. I'm using one of the Apple Mighty Mouse devices that provides a lot of different controls that allows me to adjust and customize inside of OS X. To begin, I can control how fast my cursor tracks across my screen when I move it. If I move it to fast, when I move my cursor, it moves very quickly. However, if I move it to slow, then it moves very slowly. So you can adjust this. I usually keep mine right about in the middle. And then you can also adjust your double click speed. Again, this seems like a trivial thing. However, some people have a lot of difficulty with not being able to double click fast enough or double clicking too fast. So you can adjust this rate to change how fast or how slow you need to double click in order for OS X to recognize it. Same thing for scrolling. When you're in a window that scrolls, you can adjust how fast or slow that scrolling appears. Now let's get down to the good stuff. First of all, this button here on an Apple Mighty Mouse is the scroll wheel. And although scrolling works by default, you can also add a task to it by pressing on that button to activate a different setting. So if I choose my drop-down menu, I can choose whether I wanted to maybe activate the dashboard or activate Spotlight when it's depressed. So if I choose Dashboard and I click on that button, it will activate my dashboard for me. Same thing with my mouse buttons. Even though you can't actually see that there's a button here, by default the left button is a primary button and the right button is too. I've resisted the right click for years, but once I finally started using it, I've found that I can't live without it. So for the right mouse button, I'm going to choose the drop-down menu and choose secondary button, which becomes my right click. Finally, on the left and right sides of the mouse, if you squeeze them together, you could set a task that will turn on when it's activated. So for instance, I could choose to activate Expose for the desktop. And now when I squeeze those buttons, the Expose activates for me. Squeeze them again and it deactivates it. Finally, when I do scroll, the Apple Mighty Mouse allows me to scroll both vertically and horizontally. So I can turn that on or off and change it to vertical only or in 360 degree. So I'm going to leave it set to vertical and horizontal. And then you can also turn on an option that will zoom using the scroll ball while holding. So if I were to hold down the control key on my keyboard and I would scroll with the mouse, it actually allows me to zoom in on my screen. And this can be useful especially for people who have difficulty seeing the screen or difficulty reading certain areas. So as you can see, it's very easy to control how your mouse behaves in Snow Leopard.